I don't know what I'm saying. So thanks for coming to my channel. Most of you know me if you've already subscribed. I'm Gabby, I have vitiligo, and this is what my channel is about. So if you're new here, welcome, and please subscribe if you like this video. So today's video was requested by somebody. On the last video, she wanted to know how I deal with stares and judgments on a daily basis because I have vitiligo, and if you don't cover it up, you can get quite a few responses. So today I'm going to talk about what I was called and what I'm still called on a daily basis by people. I'm going to talk about a little bit of how I dealt with it at the time and then how I deal with it now. So I'm going to talk about all of that, so stay tuned to the end. I'm going to talk about all of those things. So let's jump right in. So from the time I was young, I was 5 when I actually got diagnosed with it, and that's when I got like a little spot on my chest. And by the time I was in elementary school, my face was starting to look really patchy, and I was wearing makeup. In like 4th or 5th grade, my mom would put it on because I was worried about getting bullied by these kids. It was actually I had just moved to this school, so this was going to be like my first impression of these kids, and it was starting to look patchy, and as you know, if you move to a new school, you're already going to have trouble fitting in, and you're going to have trouble making friends. Well, at least that's the way it was for me. I was pretty shy, so it was hard for me to make new friends, and then on top of that, I had this major insecurity that just came up, so I wanted to hide it. So I would go to school with makeup, and as it got worse, people started getting meaner. So at first, I don't think anyone could really notice because I stayed cover up. I only had like a spot on my chest, and it was starting to fade on my face, but you couldn't really tell if I had the makeup on. But then as it got worse, it was harder to cover it up, and people would notice. And like, I used to walk around with my hands like I would wear long sleeve, and I would cover it up like to my fingertips. Like, I would walk around in like that, and I would write like that. And it's just so funny, like, thinking back, I would get so worried about like having to write in front of somebody or like staple a paper because I knew they would be able to see if I didn't like cover it up right. So it was just really crazy, like, living that way. But like, as it progressed, it was harder to hide, and people would notice, and people were really rude. And so a couple of the things that they would call me, the classics: cow, zebra, giraffe, things like that. And at the time it really hurt, but it doesn't seem all that original now that I'm looking back. And another one that they called me out on a lot was, since the pigment disappeared from my face and a little bit of pigment was left around my lips, they would say that I had like coffee stains, and they would constantly make fun of me and say that I had a mustache because it was like a little bit of brown left around my lips. And then they would say I drank some chocolate milk and I forgot about it or something like that, or I ate something chocolate and just left it there. And I would tell them it's not food, it's my skin, and then they would just laugh. And people would constantly be telling me that I have a mustache, and I was like really hurt by it at the time, obviously. And as a young child, I did not say anything because I didn't really know what was happening to my skin at the time. I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't even know what was happening, so I didn't know how to explain it to anybody else. I just said, I don't know what happened. People would ask me if I got burned. People would ask me, is that the disease that Michael Jackson has? And I was just really embarrassed. I would just want to cry anytime anyone brought it up. It was like really, really hard because I guess I wanted to pretend that I didn't have it, because then maybe people would be nicer to me if I didn't have it. People were really rude, and like, I remember several instances where someone asked me about it and I ran to the bathroom crying because I just wanted to be normal. And then one day I took the bus. My mom normally had picked me up, but then since we lived, she would pick me up and drop me off at school, and since we lived so close, she decided that maybe I should take the bus that day to get home. And as soon as I boarded the bus, there was like little boys my age, they were asking me, how many colors are you, and you look like an animal, and things like that. And they were just like, they were just badgering me the whole bus ride home, and I pretty much tuned out that bus ride. And I remember it was so, like, they were so bad, like, they were bullying me so harshly that my sister was actually crying about it for me, and I didn't actually even have a reaction at that point. I was just like, what just happened here? But people would call me all sorts of things, and I don't even remember them. There was another instance where people would just touch my skin to see if it was like a different texture. They would touch me without me saying it was okay. They would just touch me and then like just stare at me, and I thought that was really weird. And and obviously that's not okay. And if that had happened to me like today, I would say, don't touch me, but I didn't have those boundaries as a child. But those are some of the things that I got called. People can be pretty brutal sometimes. But for people might think because I like show myself on Instagram or like broadcast myself on YouTube that I don't get bullied anymore. I actually get bullied all the time, and a lot of comments don't actually come to my face. I hear about them from somebody else, or people just give you nasty stares, or like they're just looking at you, or they won't stop looking at you. And that can be pretty hard when you're just going into the bank or trying to do errands and people are just being assholes. Okay. Yeah, it's a little hard to talk about it just because it still does bother me sometimes. But people, I actually got a message like that. I used to be on this site called FormSpring where people just ask you random questions anonymously. Instead of getting questions, I would just get a lot of hate comments because it was anonymous, and people would just send me things and say like, you're so ugly, I wish you would die, things like that. And looking back, I just feel so sad for these people because I don't know what would go through somebody's head to say something like that to someone. I don't know whoever said that. I still don't because it was anonymous. I got several of those, and some of them were just nasty about random things. But after I think I like turned on off the anonymous settings so I could see who it was for any future questions that were asked, and nobody would ask me any questions because they didn't want me to know who they were. So people like to talk about you and not to you. So people would just talk about that all the time, and then I would get my friends at the time when I was in school, they would be saying, oh, so-and-so is talking about you and how ugly you are, and like my friends would get upset because they were my friends. And they were trying to protect me, but people would be talking about me, and I was mortified when I had to change into my gym uniform for school because everyone would look at me, and I didn't want them to know what I looked like. So for anybody who thinks that I don't get any of that hate still, it's still there. I just have learned to deal with it in a better way. And now that I'm an adult, I know how to defend myself. So, here, this what leads me up to this. Some people still really struggle with the hatred because it's not that easy to overcome when it's everywhere. A lot of people show a lot of love, but a lot of people in the world are just so engulfed with the hate that they will just spit out anything that comes to mind, no matter how nasty it is. So, so I hope this will help anybody who's still getting a lot of that hate, and anybody who feels like they're not beautiful. So this is to help anybody who's still struggling with that. Here's a few tips of how to deal with it. So number one is I try to remain neutral. I try to act like no matter what they say to me, it's not going to bother me, it's not going to get a reaction out of me, and it's not going to make me stoop to that level, because people who say things like that are looking to get a reaction out of you, and they're looking to be rude to you. So if they just said something rude to you and you don't respond because don't respond because it is beneath you. So anything that you respond with, they're just going to pull you back down to their level. So I don't really see how any good can come from that situation if somebody's being nasty to you. So I try to remain neutral and just kind of pretend like they don't even exist, because what I used to do is I would walk into a grocery store and I would be showing my vitiligo and people would be staring at me, people would be staring at me, and I would try to look at everyone all at the same time to see who was looking at me, because I wanted to be prepared for who might say something. And that was so exhausting, because like the people I was looking at weren't looking at me, and then the people who I didn't look at yet, they were actually the ones that were looking at me. So it was just really exhausting trying to keep up with who was looking at me and when and where. So just try to stay neutral, and if somebody is looking at you or talking about you, just try to act like they don't even exist, because ignoring them, it brings a great deal of satisfaction when they are not getting a reaction out of you, when that's clearly what they're looking for. The second one is to just, I like to respond in some sort of way. Whether it's making a YouTube response video, mentioning it to a friend of mine, or even talking to that person who is being judgmental. I don't really like confrontation. I feel like I just don't like it. I don't like to cause problems. I don't like to be arguing with anybody. So, but the way that I like to respond is I like to respond on YouTube, because I can talk about it and other people can learn from what happened. So I like to make some sort of response. So I think I do this because I think it's important to stand up for yourself in some sort of way. So I like to make the video because then other people can learn from my mistake, and they can actually learn what happened, and then some good can come out of that situation, and then it doesn't have to be just a negative experience. The next one is I try to learn something from every experience. So I try to learn about what happened and maybe why and what triggered it, and I just try to learn something from each of those situations. So the other day I went into the bank and someone just turned around and was staring at me the whole time I was in line to get with the teller. But they were just like turning around and they were just staring at me the whole time. I try to just remember that no matter how low someone stoops, I'm not going to follow. I know it can be hard, and a lot of people would just want to judge right back and like be like, oh, well, you're this way, or you're this way, or something about their appearance, or like you're fat, or you're too tall, or whatever, or your clothes suck. Like, some people would want to rebuttal, but I don't think that is helpful to anyone. So I think that instead of that, you need to try to learn from the situation. You need to say, this person is really judgmental and I'm not going to follow. I think it's really, really important that you separate yourself mentally from that person, because if you are doing the same thing as them, you are the same. So you need to learn the difference between these people and you. So you just need to remember, I am a caring person and they're judgmental, and they can stay over there and they can be judgmental by themselves, but I'm not going to be with them. And the next thing, the last thing is pretty obvious, but you need to be nice to yourself, and you need to give yourself a break. And being in these situations can be really overwhelming and can be really hurtful sometimes. So what you need to do is you need to just acknowledge everything that you're feeling, and you need to say some nice things to yourself. Because after incidents, I start to feel a little ugly. So I need to remind myself, hey, just because I'm two colors doesn't make me any less beautiful than someone else. So I need to remind myself of those things. I need to say a lot of nice things about myself, and I need to do something that makes me feel better, because coming out of those situations isn't really always the easiest. I can find myself in darkness for a couple of days, because I'm like, well, maybe this person is right, and maybe I am ugly, but I just need to pull myself out of that and try to be nice to myself and acknowledge whatever it is that I'm feeling and try to move through it. And because all of the progress that you and I make doesn't need to be diminished by one person and one set of things that they said. So be nice to yourself, give yourself a break, go do something that makes you happy, watch videos, watch something that you like, do something that you enjoy, do something that makes you feel better. Just try to let go of those feelings, and And eventually you'll need to forgive this person, because holding on to those feelings is not doing you any good. So it's kind of like a process. You need to try to ignore, you need to accept, and then you need to forgive. So you need to move through all of those stages, otherwise you're not gonna let go of these emotions. So you need to, so that's what some of the important things that I've learned, and it's really not easy. So for anyone that thinks like everyone's confident all the time, or this person has a nice Instagram and they have nice photos, that they never have a moment of insecurity, or someone never says something mean to them, it's not true at all. We overcome it, but people are constantly trying to pull us down so that we won't rise above them. So it's really, sometimes it can be really hard to get over that. But you need to realize that being different and being unique does not make you bad or any less than anyone else. I don't care if someone is like 5 different colors, if they have a gap in their teeth, if they're 50 pounds overweight. I really don't care. I believe that we're all humans and we should all love each other, but that's just not the case. People are hateful, and I don't really agree with that way of life, but I think that if you are being hated on, I don't think that you should respond with hate. I think you should respond with love, because that's what's going to make this situation go away, and that's what's going to make you move on and forget about it. So I hope this really helped everyone, and I hope this helped the person who requested this video. Next week's video is going to be interesting. I think I have a couple of ideas, but I'm deciding between a couple. It's going to be on Wednesday again, so make sure you subscribe if you like this video. It wasn't that exciting or fun and happy, because it's talking about something that's really a struggle for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't feel comfortable sharing, but I'm going to help you today, because I feel comfortable sharing it now. So I hope this helped everyone. Stay tuned next week for another video. Subscribe if you like this video. Please like and comment if you want to. You don't have to. And I hope this helped everyone who is struggling. So tune in next time, and I'll see you on Wednesday.